Boom. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I'm your host here. Welcome all creatives, community, and kind folks. Thank you very much for joining in on this Monster Monday. And I thought we'd take this week to kind of uh, th- th- I want an elephant in the room this idea this week. And this is the idea of not having an idea in the first place. Like, how do you, meaning me, become creative when there's nothing upstairs, there's nothing rolling around, there's just loose marbles and no ideas at all. It feels like, man, I'm out of anything creative. I don't have an idea for an adventure, an encounter, a monster. There's a game coming up in 3 hours and I've got nothing. And this happens more often than a little bit, especially for those who maybe want to run a new game or have been running a game with a bunch of their fellow participants for a very long time, and they felt like you know, one rule of creativity is to always leave your greatest stuff on the table first. Just do it. Don't hold on to your great ideas. Just put them out there. And writer's block, and in a larger sense, a creative block is it can feel daunting almost because at least a physical barrier, you can at least get a couple of people to help you move something out the way, right? You're like, oh, I can't move this sofa by myself. Here's some pizza and beer. Help me move my house or something, right? Those are things. But um it's like it's funny, like Michael says, writer's block, been there. Someone once said, when you have nothing to write about writing. Yep, exactly. And and sometimes that's the thing, right? Like, it's allowing ourselves the ability to it's vulnerable, but delving into and embracing the idea that we have a weakness, and that weakness in this sense it's going to be creative. And instead of getting frustrated and um just being mad, and almost our emotions begin to cloud the regions that are in our empty spaces, because nature does not like a void, and it'll fill it with something. And sometimes that what'll happen is we'll just get frustrated, and we'll want to have our internal temper tantrums, because no matter how much us old gray beard grognards get, we're still kids at heart. That's something that the talk with young folk that we often don't have is, yeah, you never really get older. I mean, we age and we learn to navigate the world in a much more mature way, but we never really get older. We're just kids at all of us are kids at heart anyway. And Mike says, when I'm out of ideas, I tend to throw it to the table. I'll have them recount the last session, then I ask them what they think is going on, and that's for discussion. And I think one of the greatest tools we can have is the tool of other people. I mean, just simple math will let you know that one person is lesser than two plus more when it comes to creativity. And so an unspoken tool, especially I feel like in the beginnings, in the OSR regional, one of the unspoken rules was that at the table, as players, say everything out loud. There's no reason to hold on to it. You don't have to keep secrets from the dungeon master or game master when designing an encounter. It's like, speak about your paranoia, speak on your fears and what you think is going on, and who murdered the noble family in their sleep, and who stole away the princess and stole her away. I bet she's in the dark castle on the other hill or something. Like, speak on those things. Speak on the machinations you think are going on in the world, and that gives us fuel to go, I didn't think the vampire lord would be the one that did it, but maybe that's a great idea. Yep. Just like Mike says it, and they will choose a course and I'll just arbitrate. Yep, absolutely. And I think even when it comes to mechanics, I think when it comes to stat blocks, like the foundations of the game, not the creative, the fluff versus the crunch, right? Even when it comes to those kind of things, I mean, there's this weird mythology that if there isn't a rule and the dungeon master or game master creates a rule for it that it's random, and normally it's not. It's a consensus, and if you have a great synergy with the people around the table, then you can have excellent consensus or very quick consensus when dealing with something. You inserted a you inserted a deep pool with something at the bottom of the pool of water. Something glitters down there, and the player characters are thinking about swimming down to the bottom to get it. And you created some kind of tension timer in your head. And then you're thinking, okay, well, there's a tentacled creature down at the bottom. And if they can get past it, they can get the treasure. And then everyone, maybe a player at the table goes, well, I wonder what the swimming rules are like and the drowning rules. And you go, yeah, I don't really like them either, but you haven't said anything yet. And if the consensus at the table is like, well, uh, we're going to have you be able to hold your breath for a minute per constitution bonus, but if you're attacked and you fail a save, you lose a minute, right? And it might be talking on a table, and you're thinking, I don't know how I'm going to adjudicate this. I didn't even think about it. I just thought of a pool of water and some tentacles and some treasure at the bottom, and then all of a sudden, you as the dungeon master arbitrate, right? You're the negotiator, the final word, and you go, yeah, that's the rule we're going to use. So, um, today being Monster Monday, because I was having an internal discussion in my head. We're currently working on a creative project, or rather, often have dueling creative projects, or actually multiples, a triarch of projects going on in my head and writing them down. And I got stuck a little bit, and then I said, "Well, wait a minute." Like the thumbnail, just a vivid green serpent, probably venomous snake or something, caught in the midst of it, about to bite something. I was like, well, you can. There's some simple things we can find some ideas from. And it being Monster Monday, I said, well, nature is pretty brutal with things. We can, yeah. Mike says a quick reskin is often enough. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, well, wait, nature gives us plenty of ideas. Other The monster we thought we were going to use, maybe other monsters in its ilk, or maybe not even related to it, give us plenty of ideas. For example, there's a fallacy that the Mind Flayer is in the current fifth edition, now in Creative Commons, OGL SRD, the Open Gaming License, the Creative Commons gaming license, and Mind Flayer's in there. And actually, it isn't. The word is in there, like Beholder, I believe, is in there, and uh, there's a couple of other words and phrases that are in probably by accident. They probably mistakenly left it in there. That is in the Creative Commons, but unfortunately, the reason why I would really suggest someone not doing that, using like beholders and mind flayers in there, is because the document itself doesn't define what they are, but it's always been defined in there. We just haven't thought about it. So my meaning is, maybe I should even share this. So my meaning is the aboleth. So the, there's a creature in Dungeons and Dragons, and it's known as the aboleth. And we think of it as this like aquatic, I don't know, serpentine-ish kind of thing. And it is it's maybe more squid related, would probably be better. And it lives down in the dark. But honestly, is it a mind flare? It's pretty close, right? And we can use these kind of things to allow us to basically go like, you know what, if I reskin this thing and call it something else, and you know, can I use this one thing in place of something else? Of course we did. And we even talked about the idea of renaming and reskinning and such. But I just want to say, like, when you're stuck, maybe you're stuck with a monster and you're trying to figure out how to use it, just why don't you just use another monster, right? So, I mean, does it have a swim speed? Yeah, sure. Can we change our swim speed to maybe flight? Okay, that's easy. It levitates through the ground, right? You don't have the stat block for a mind flare, but that's exactly what you're thinking of. And then you start going down. You got some stats in here like wisdom and charisma. You can fudge all that, move that around. PCs are never going to see that. And It's got amphibious. Well, it only has amphibious if you put it in an amphibious region. Yeah, get rid of that. Okay, or use it or don't. Okay, but it's got a mucus cloud. We could call that something else. Maybe it's like a psychic dissonance or something, or whatever. Right? It's got probing telepathy. That works for us for at least for a mind flare. And then we've got other abilities like a tail. Maybe it doesn't have a tail. Maybe it's got like a whip or something. It does have tentacles on its face. We could even we can give this thing a humanoid appearance. It's got an enslavement ability. Let's just use all those. So it's got a psychic drain ability. So and it even has a layer actions and such and regional effects. And so just taking those that kind of thing, taking it, reskinning it, whatever. I think that's a great idea. Just as an example. And if you are stuck with maybe a collection of monsters, maybe put them all together, like ogres and minotaurs, cyclops or something. Throw them all together, mix and match some of their capabilities, and then again you have something else. But in front of me, you can't see this right now. And actually, I thought about at one point I thought about doing this as a like instead of a page through and showing you books, I thought about coming up with something. So I have in front of me, you can't see them yet because I'm going to show them to you. I have cards, I have games, I have dice that are inspiration fodder, much like fidget spinners and things of that ilk. These are kind of things that I use sometimes, and I'm going to show you one that's I didn't come up with this, but it was created somewhere else in I believe it was Dungeon World, and as a matter of fact, I will I will hold on to this for just a minute. Let me get to our co-host here. Mike says yeah, quick reskin is often enough. That or the rumor of something is enough. Yeah. Create blurry shadows under the surface of the water or trees moving in the woods when no wind is present, etc. Their paranoia will take over. I've made new aberrations, yeah, from whole cloth. The trick for me was finding out what creeps out the table, then lean into it. Uh, that is Listen, if you have players that are scared of a thing, and in fantasy, dragons are the embodiment of actually a number of our fears, at least in the past: fear of fire, fear of shadows, snakes, predators, things that are larger than us, things that can hide from our vision. Again, hiding in the shadows, invisible, camouflaged, things that make noises in a distance, wolves and bears and other kinds of monsters, animals can create fears in our brain. And even in a role playing game, a lot of times there are indie creators that have been able to create the tension of fear, much like there's a game called Dread that uses a stacking block tower, a Jenga tower, as its game mechanic. There's another game called 10 Candles, in which you basically you literally have 10 candles at the table and you blow out a candle, kind of like if I can be very simple to simplify it, it's like your life or like hit points or something, and it's a modification of that. And most recently, I just did a page through and review of a game that uses real time as a tension mechanic. And there's other games, another one, a Kickstarter that's very popular right now, that's going on now, called Shadow Dark, that uses a in real world tension timer for an in-game effect. And I think a lot of those things really help. Mike says any monster that shapeshifts or uses illusions are a great resource because you can wing it a lot and decide later what the real villain is. I've Hey, listen, that's why I default to like Rakshasa, hags, doppelgangers, Oni or ogre magi, like anything that shapeshifts. Those make great mid-level background things because they can literally be any PC in your game, whether you've decided to put them in your world or not, right? Those are great. So, okay, suspense is killing me because I got to show this to you. Again, I can't take credit for this, but and again, maybe I might do a top down where I can show you a bunch of these things. But this is a Rubik's cube, And I believe it's Dungeon World, and I've tried to Google it, but I've heard this through reviews. I know. Anyway, um, Rubik's cube, puzzle cube, whatever you want to call it, has various colors on it. There's red, yellow, green, blue, white, and orange. And you can also order these in larger, smaller sizes. So there's more cubes. They come in triangles and orbs and all those kind of things. You can order replacement stickers for these cubes that have friends and family, but you can use any kind of photograph or something, artwork or whatever. But the funny thing is, of course, this has nothing to do with role playing games, but it can be an inspiration by using assigning the colors and using it as a very quick mechanism to create a dungeon, a a notable feature in the landscape. It can be used for NPCs. You could and so what you can do is just assign. You've got basically six colors. You assign a trait to those six colors, and then wherever you think the player characters are located, you then assign the color and use that as an inspiration. So, for example, that's not very colorful. Let's go. What's a good one? All right, I'll stop here. So let's say we're doing this a city generator, right? And the player characters come in from this white. Yeah. It's white. The my lights have a little bit of a yellow tint to them, but um, so let's say this is white, and let's say white is a lookout. White is clear. White is a place where a an enemy, a city guard. There's someone that's looking out. Okay. Let's assign red is dangerous. Maybe there's violence or could be fire. Green could be green spaces or life or safety. And maybe let's make orange. Orange is kind of a strange color, so let's make orange something magical. So if you wanted to use this for, say, a city, then maybe there is a lookout or an armed guard or maybe someone who is a passerby, but they're on the lookout for danger. And over here, there might be a fight, two uh, fights about to break out, something violent, maybe uh, a gang warfare is about to happen, or maybe one of these are city guards that are pushing people around, and then the other one are criminals that are beating people in the streets. Is maybe it's late night, and so the city guards are just want to beat heads because they want to stop the violence. And then over here there's violence going on and they want to beat heads. And then there's green space, so maybe the green space is, it could be a place where the people are rich, and this is like a park. This could be in the woodlands or something, and so on and so forth. So you could, this is a very good technique. And guess what, it's really really good for being something that is fidgety, to allow one to manipulate the dungeon. I believe it was Dungeon World that had six traits to turn this into a dungeon, and you would this was the direction the PCs would go. So all the red were like danger and monsters. The orange was something else, like something magical, arcane. Yellow was possible danger or maybe traps. I forget what white was, and green, but it doesn't matter. It great tool right here. Um, there are other tools. Let's pull these up. These are this is the back of the cards. These are just description cards. I'm trying to get these so they don't cast too much of a reflection. But yeah, these are just description cards, and this is the back. They just have images so you can tell the difference between them. And then on the front, they're just words and descriptions, and they have various categories and such. So, for example, there are let's see, put these sideways. So, so on the very bottom of these cards, it says the labyrinth and it says environments, and then when they're held vertical, let's see if I can turn this off here so it doesn't do that. There we go. So we have various descriptors, and then on the side it tells you what kind of descriptors they are. So let's put smells and sounds versus environments. Smells and sounds. You don't have an idea what to do. Here's some smells and sounds in the environment. Another one is labyrinth and environments and such. And then you have a way to describe them. And then it's just a three point thing. One has scurry, blood, smoke, and some words down here. The other one's like forest, jungle, marshes, swamps, mountains, deserts, and things like that. And very easy to. Who made these? That was my issue about not wanting to show these. It's like, where'd you get them from? Who made them? Man, that could be a little bit of a difficult thing to which is why I kind of wanted to hesitate. But yeah, I always have something like that. I have a stack of these GM's dressing dice, and the dressing dice are basically a dice form of descriptors. So in each of the dice that are set up, there's like NPCs. Let me see if we can pull these out of here. Dungeon, boom, 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 and booklets and cards. There we go. Bunch of dice for a dungeon, just like Rory's story cubes. Um, Dungeon dice, GM's dressing dice. Oop. They come out in a little cube. They got their own little thing. You roll the dice, come up with some random stuff, whether it's in a dungeon, you're in a city or a town, you're traveling along, and you want to just roll something randomly. I've got um, background cards for traps and riddles. These are little boxes. They have cards in them. They're all randomized. Pick one out. Use them randomly. What else do I have over here? I did a review of Everway. Everway has this deck of cards. They're like tarot cards, and let's see, tarot regular old tarot cards. You can order and order online, get them flavorful, whether you want them sci-fi, dragons, fairies. I mean, there's a billions of types of cards, but yeah, these are like basically tarot deck cards, and you can use a card to like describe like what the person looks like, where they're at. Maybe you didn't think of having a marketplace in your city, but they turn a corner, and then voila, there is one. Also, when it comes to monsters and such, combining monsters or humanoids with something primordial or in nature, taking a group of monsters, whoops, and combining them together. It's like, for example, um, maybe I'll show you a something I was working on. Yeah, I'll call it up. I hate I hate things that aren't done, but why the hell not? So I thought about making up some of these compound tables, and I was like, man, I need to. What can I do for my compound table and come up with something that I can show other people? And I said, well, okay, let's see if we can come up with something. And so just a random let's see, will this show up here? So I came up with a dumb name called Fireball Brain Fuel, and this actually came from us doing a an overview of something called Dive, which is for the mothership. It's a supplement for someone created for Jeremy Childry for the mothership role playing game, and I was like, I like compound tables, so I thought I'd show something off. Um, Mike Marin says I bought myself some blank dice and a Sharpie. How easy is that? Blank dice? Yeah. Made an NPC of 4 dice that has a race die, yeah, emotion, appearance feature, um, very quick, very effective. Yeah. Blank. I haven't done it, but I've thought like how easy would it be to get like blank dice, which you can get them very cheap. You get a bucket of blank dice, and you could just very easily take a Sharpie and write on it, or have some either you could put numbers and have a chart next to it, put draw some figures out. I mean, you guys have heard of Rory's story dice. I have some. I do have a huge chunk of them in the back. Maybe I might do that. Bring something out like that. I know I'm down in the corner. I've got these things called scrying stones. I've got something off Etsy. A lady did some inspirational cards, and the artwork on them is really great. There's so many things for inspiration, but like for example, just coming up, I was trying to think of a way to inspire other people for role playing games, and I did this just I don't know in a couple of hours yesterday on Sunday. So I was like, the fireball brain fuel. Fireballs, a bunch of d6s, a crap ton of compound d6 tables for your important and not so important tabletop needs. Grab 66 and be inspired. And so I decided to take some aberrants, and very quickly I just kind of group I use the basic rules, the SRD, and just put them in order. There's six, technically seven of them, kind of. The spectators kind of in there, but anyway, put an aboleth, the chul, the cloaker, gibbering. I call it gibbering, not a gibbering, but like jibber jabber. Gibbering mouther, Nothic, and Odiog, right? So you got them there, got CR. You've got, and then I decided to put next to it an alternate form, like a reskin form. So you could pick or roll for a stat block, and then decide what it looks like. Like maybe a cloaker is more insectoid, or a Nothic is more well, it's kind of humanoid, but maybe it's more reptilian, or the Altiag is more bat-like. And then I put down some random senses you may want to give it, like it's got dark vision, or extra eyes, or keen hearing, maybe some psychic awareness, the old thermal vision, right? No rules, just something here like tremor sense or echolocation. And then I added some extra or alternate movement, like the aboleth I talked about earlier. Maybe we give it flight instead of, or spider climbing instead of being able to swim, or or maybe the aboleth is insectoid, but it has tunneling and it has extra eyes, right? Or some kind of psychic awareness or thermal vision or something. Then I thought of some abilities to harm. I snatched these from to the right, the harmful effects from the stat blocks of the things that already exist. So kind of like mix and match, like a cloaker with an enslaving charm, or a Nothic with a gibbering incoherency, or aboleth with the weird insight, or Atiag with a rotting gaze or something. And then some extra resistances, like maybe it's got an armored carapace, or it can create duplicate phantasms. It's got ethereal phasing, or maybe a false appearance or mucus cloud or something like that. And so just kind of randomly. But then I didn't want to stop there, so that I moved over to like physical traits and behaviors and effluvia. I had to think of something. I was like, what does it leave behind, right? Like evidence, lore, secrets. And it's kind of like some random tables like that, and maybe somebody could use for aberrants and such. Like for example, under physical traits, you've got thin tendrils along its back, and I put six d6 times 10 of them, maybe like thin hairs or something, or covered in slime, or slowly shifting form with some recognizable. Maybe there's some behaviors like watches from the shadows, or ignores those that ignore it. For effluvia, I put shed skin, which repels moisture, or has sheds, dried eyeballs, which show its last location, or um, leaves globules of pus consumed. When consumed, it mutates. Um, Left like maybe it leaves evidence like mucus trails, or leaves victims in permanent states of fear. Um, Domesticated animals acting chaotic around it. Add some lore. They are agents of elder gods, or they came from the deep sea, or they come from distant realms beyond the stars. And added some secrets and things. So, and just blah blah blah. I start to mix and match them. I didn't stop there because I like to overwrite. So then I went to like drives, what it consumes, what's it enticed by, what are weaknesses, where it resides, some possessions it may have nearby. And I was like, okay. And then I thought about moving on and on and on. But anyway, so but my point, my initial point for this was like where can we find ourselves some interesting things, so that when we are stuck with an idea, where can we get some inspiration? And a lot of time, like Mike Mayer says, highly recommend. Here we go. M Squared mentions it's funny how an external tactile randomizer prompts the mind's imagination much quicker than seeing the same information in a table. I definitely agree. Like just the Rubik's cube idea. Like, not saying that this is a perfect idea, but the tactile function, the fidgetness of it, just me showing it, I'm sure you guys are getting like ideas like, man, a Rubik's cube, man, if you could just put images or faces or numbers or something like that onto a Rubik's cube and go, well, you went into the dungeon and there's a lot of red. Uh-oh, it's going to be really dangerous or something. Or maybe each one of these is a room, or maybe the entire thing is a room. It's the battlefield, but these are places where the PCs can go. Like right over here is like the water feature, and then right over here, all the red is like it's on fire, and the yellow is like you better be careful. Maybe there's a ledge or something you can stand on, but it might start to erode away because of the water feature over here. And then right here is orange. That's where a wizard's standing. It's arcane wizard. Right there's our spotters or something like that, right? So, but my point being, like, my not really my point. What M squared is saying, it's like, yeah, sometimes having like physical dice in your hand, it's the proverbial dungeon master rolling the dice and not knowing why, but they roll it behind the screen, and then the dungeon master just making voice like facial expressions and voices like okay, even though behind the eyes there's nothing there. It's kind of a cool thing when you start to touch things. And there, we go, turn the light back on. Mike says highly recommend doing it, as the action of rolling physical dice is fun. It sure is. Mike says Effluvia it is going to be much sorry going to be much appreciated if you have a ranger in the party. Yeah. The whole point of me doing even adding something like that in there, right? Like the point of me even adding that in, it was just an idea of like what do monsters leave behind, right? Like, do they shed their skin? What is their waste like? What did I put down here? Black scabs, which are discarded memories, or excretions after eating, which are both healing and poisonous, or hardened hives, usable as havens. I'm thinking when I said hardened hives, I was thinking like the Alien franchise, where like they create these hives, to leave their eggs or something behind or whatever. Um, but yeah, if you have like a ranger or druid, anyone's like, what are we finding here? And mind you, I didn't, again, inspiration comes from other places, right? So in level up A5E, Advanced 5th Edition, in their monstrous menagerie, they do have a region in the region, an area in under each creature that, like, in the lore section, like maybe there's something that they leave behind. Maybe there's eggshells or scratch marks on the wall or something of that nature. Mike says there's a random table for demonic mutations in Mordenkainen's that you'll find useful. Yep, yep, I love that kind of stuff. And of course, listen, every demon and devil, every fiend in your world doesn't look exactly the same, or you might not want them to look the same. It's the idea of the the proverbial boring conflict. They're bandits, they're goblins that attack you. Roll initiative. Okay, roll to hit. And instead of going like, well, what do they look like? And going, well, they look like the goblins in the book. Maybe they're each different. Maybe one goblin's got one eye, has got an eye patch, carries a a blood crusted jagged dagger, and another goblin has an oversized helmet on, and it's using, I don't know, a half broken shield because it's small, so the shield's broken in half, and it's using, instead of a short sword, it's using a broken spear as its weapon, right? It's like little things like that can give us descriptions, can give us ideas, and then maybe that sparks something else for inspiration. Like, where did they get it from? Are they using something they stole from people in the local area? Maybe the goblins are, or the bandits are using weapons they stole from a region nearby, and the bandits are the reason why the two communities hate each other, because they think they're being attacked by the other city, but they're not. There's just bandits in the middle that are using the other side's uh, I don't know, heraldry or banners or something like that to hide their crimes. um, Also, when we want to be inspired, much like the thumbnail with the snake on it, we could take animalistic behaviors and shape them into societal cultural behaviors, like maybe the people in the city are snake like, and what are things that snakes do? They are cold-blooded creatures. So to stay warm, maybe the people lay out in the sun, and it's a very common thing for have these open public spaces where they lay out in the sun. And maybe for the PCs, they're like, it's hot out here. Why is everybody laying out in the sun, right? Um, Shedding skin, maybe once or twice a day, everybody just goes home, or they go to a region where they shed their clothing and put on robes for some reason, the bell tolls and they all shed their skin to do something else, right? Or maybe they paint their bodies and faces, and almost hypnotically, or maybe it's just a cultural thing and the PCs don't understand what's going on. Poisons and venoms, maybe the people here consume and have consumed for generations just a little bit of poison, a little bit of venom in their drinks or food or something. And the PCs are like, I'm not drinking that. And there's a snake nearby, and they put just a little bit in, and it could be cultural, it could be necessary because it's needed for them to resist the poisons in the maybe there's something hazardous in the food and drink around them. And you see right now, I didn't come up with this. I just pulled this out of my ass because I needed an image for a thumbnail, and I didn't think I'd actually reference it as like I am. But again, it's just inspiration. Where do we get it from? Also, honestly, just engaging in other nerdy activities, History Channel and documentaries, other movies, card games, video games, talking, just having conversations with other people. Um, I love movies and television and the making of those things. And when I'm stuck with an adventure or an encounter, turn on something creative. Uh, I've been trying to rewatch The Expanse from the very beginning. I've been watching The Last of Us, The Mandalorian. Third season of The Mandalorian's back on the air. Um, I've just finished watching Yellowstone, and like these are various television shows and whatever. And watching them. What else have I been rewatching? House of the Dragon is another one, and just stealing from it, homaging, I guess, being inspired by. Stealing, I guess, is a terrible way to describe it, but maybe it's a little more true than maybe it's more true than we like to think. But just being inspired with those things. So, um, again, I mean, like, without trying to create too much noise here, um, got these off of Etsy. I thought they looked cool. They are not related to role playing games at all. On the back end of these cards, there's like inspirational quotes, which wasn't really why I got them, but they actually have like questions and things. It What happened was the artist is very she makes these gorgeous images. Ooh, this is so reflective. But anyway, I mean, you get a thing like unclothed woman in a matrix or something. These are just images and artwork and stuff. And like I said, I got them off of Etsy, so guaranteed I probably paged through 30 or 40 of inspirational pieces of artwork and stuff. Some of them are like splatter punked a little bit. Ooh, that's there we go. But anyway, what else do I have here? There's so much. There's so many bits and baubles and pieces of inspiration that I've gotten. I got some of my favorite dice in my little dice roller here, and all these dice are like they have like random features on them. Will it zoom it? There we go. Random features. That looks like a treasure. We got ourselves weather events. We got ourselves some locations, mountains, castle, grass, houses. What else do we have? We have just literally just random bits and pieces you may find. You can assign whatever you think it looks like. Maybe those are stairs. Is that a bed? Is it a star? Is that a couch or something? Who knows? Come on, there we go. Dungeon directions, rooms, sizes of rooms, secret doors, traps, pathways, hallways. that kind of stuff. So yeah, 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 yeah. I forget where I think I won this. It's got like it looks kind of like it's got like it's the leather Lord of the Rings thing. But anyway, even this little thing reminds me of a little watchtower. But absolutely, there's so many ways to get in, to be inspired, whether it comes to monster creation, stealing stats, capabilities, special features, layers from one monster and layering it on another, coming up with new origins or motivations for your creatures, giving creatures an intelligence that they don't normally have, or removing an intelligence that they normally do have. We know there's a slight argument within the Game of Thrones versus role playing community that Game of Thrones doesn't have dragons at all. They're just fire breathing wyverns or whatever. Um, I think that that kind of argument is pretty silly because they are what the people think they are, right? But again, ooh, maybe that's ASMR sound for putting these back together again. Sorry about that. But yeah, are they fire breathing wyverns or are they mindless dragons? Right? Is it because their hands and wings are combined together, and dragons technically have like uh, six limbs, four limbs for walking and running, and then an extra two sets of limbs with the wings. It doesn't really matter, right? Who really cares when when something's breathing fire at you? The new Dungeons and Dragons movie is coming up, and we can tell that they've pulled things like there's a black dragon in it because it looks like it's spitting acid. There's a mimic and a gelatinous cube, but I mean, you can even take those and even stretch those even further than they need to be. But I thought this would just be a short and sweet episode about just being inspired, how to get inspired, how to break some writer's block or creative block, how to make monsters new and fresh for us, just reskinning, renaming something, changing its origin. Instead of your orcs being natural born, maybe they are caused by greed and decadence and people transform. Could it be a disease or a curse where they created whole flesh from a wizard's experiment? Do they come from an outer realm and they are agents of fiends from the lower planes, or were they mutated because of something that fell from the sky, and those that were in that community were mutated? Again, was it a curse cast on a specific bloodline because an old hag was arrested and someone cursed them, or maybe it wasn't a curse from an old hag, but a holy paladin that basically told them that yes, you'll this city of evil will exist and you'll kill me, but you and your brethren or bloodline or your children will suffer for it, or all those kind of things. And then you start to go, man, there's a new story. There's another way to look at this. And so yeah, I hope you get inspired. Like Drew says, orcs aren't cursed; they're blessed, especially from their point of view, right? Or maybe they are. Maybe they are the monster hunters that have been living on the outskirts of humanity, that have been keeping back the tide of monsters themselves, and humanity, which in the past had always given the orcs the honored position of being the monster hunters, are now being disrespected. Not that we don't have a real world counterpart to that. I'm looking at you, Vietnam War, when the soldiers came back and they were called child killers, right? It's the maybe they are the blessed ones that can survive in those realms, and they're losing their numbers, much like in Game of Thrones, the Watchers on the Wall, how it got turned from an honored position to defend the lands to like, that's where you get to send your criminals, right? So there's so many ways to look and think and be inspired, especially with our real world. And I'm not saying we should draw real world politics or anything like that, but I'm saying real world things like animals, and yes, of course, politics and science, and how where we live and our environment can be an extremely great um, inspirational feature. I mean, heck, yep, yep. Dead Man talks about the Uruk-hai from the Lord of the Rings, which I'm sure got pushed down into just plain old orcs, right? By the time it got to Gygax, and other historical things that have been manipulated and such. As a matter of fact, in our past, when people traveled from one place to another. When people got to the new place, they always thought like, oh, these new people are savages or barbarians or something, and they were mistaken for that. But a lot of the world cultures were misinterpreted and misread and such. Heck, here in the states, for those who are not in the states, we are those who live in the middle of the United States have always been under siege by nature. Warm, moist weather from the south and winds from the south of the United States, and then the cold air streams from the north always converge in the middle. And now up north, they're getting slammed with snow and winter. I'm in the Ohio Valley, which I'm in kind of a heat dome, so we don't really we get hit with snow, but not necessarily this late in the season. But we sure got hit with rain and uh, Fahrenheit temperature changes of upwards of 40 degrees. Hit 70. Yeah, yeah. We hit a 70-degree day and then dropped down to the next day to a 30-degree day. So it was a 40-degree Fahrenheit shift and change. And that's wild. That is really wild. Um, Deadman says the Orokai were changed to Orog under Gygax, just like the Treants were changed. There's a ton of halflings had to be changed from hobbits when they were originally called hobbits. Yeah, yeah, you can't steal somebody else's IP. And now it's just become the norm, right? The way we look at elves and orcs and it's just become the norm, even though they were taken from something else. So technically, Dungeons and Dragons was inspired. It didn't exist in a vacuum. It was inspired by something else. So let us be inspired as well. But by the way, thank you there, Dead Man. Thank you more than a little bit there. Um, yeah. Anyway, guys, having lots of ideas. Every once in a while, I end up getting a writer's block while I was like writing some things down, and I was like, "What the hell?" So I had to break out of it, and I said, "Well, you know what? Let me share some things." And so that's why I always, as a creator, I'm always I have like three, four, five different writing projects going on at the same time so that when I get stuck with one, I can turn my attention away from it so I don't keep spinning my wheels like a hamster and going like, I can't think of a name for a dragon. I can't think of a name for a dragon. I can't think of a name for a dragon. I'm like, forget this. Let me go off to something else, even if it's tangentially related, and then find something else, deal with that, then work my way back. Right. So again, just trying to come up with like even for me, let's show this off again. Right here, this is just some silly like fireball brain fuel thing that I was working on. I come up with these dumb names, but it just allows me to find the darn thing. Maybe I might make this a cool thing. Thought about doing it for like monster types, magic types, um, uh, regions. Do something like that for regions, like you're walking through the mountains, but it's not just mountains. Maybe it's various types of descriptors in there. I wouldn't use this for descriptors, but I'm saying like six across, six down, uh very easy to find. I thought about doing like going through the whole list, beast celestials and whatnot. um like where was the stat blocks we've got for celestials? We've got the from the SRD Quaddles, Deva, Pegasus, Planetars, Solars, Unicorns, and then some new looks for them, some super senses for them, some different abilities for them to move, some harmful effects they have, some defensive abilities they may have. And you can see I didn't get very far, right? But just something I was thinking about and thought I'd share with you from a person who's like, I don't know what I'm going to do in the future. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. We're going to move on, and as we go through the week, we're going to talk about inspirational features. Tomorrow is Tuesday, which means it's going to be Level Up Advanced Fifth Edition Tuesday. We're going to deal with and delve into inspiration, like not only what things can we find that we can be inspired by, but maybe talk about new uses for inspiration in Level Up A5e. I don't know. Maybe we can talk about some character class options. There are a ton of people that have come into the channel and found us, and I don't know where you guys came from or how you found it, but I'm glad you're here. And just leave some comments and tell me what you want to look for. I will definitely try to give that to you. But again, here we are, an hour a day, each day, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here at RPG with DBJ. I was like, whose channel is this? I am DBJ. I'm your host. Everyone else are the co-hosts of the channel. We are they are the hive mind that makes kind of makes me look good. So I really appreciate that, guys. So anyway, everyone, have a great day. We're going to shorten it up right here. Thank you very much for joining the show. Look for new things coming up. Hopefully, I've been, because I was away for like over a year. It was like I got demonetized. I'll get back up to monetization. Don't worry about you needing to monetize, but maybe we might have like memberships or special things coming along now that I am starting to generate some ideas, maybe give away some of those ideas, but in return you guys just check in and just like, share, subscribe, those kind of things really help out the channel and help me out as well, and shows me what you guys are looking for. So guys, have a great one. I will see ye tomorrow for Level Up A5E. See ya.